So just to give you a little bit of a rundown about what we'll discuss today, I have a few questions that I want to answer that I collected from a couple posts back that I asked that I want to talk about. I'm also going to give you guys time to send in your questions on here that I'll get to. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but I will try my best to get to as many as I can. We will talk about, I'm just starting to read some of your comments. We will talk about fueling for our performance, and also learning how to do that in a non-restrictive way. Obviously, you know that that's most of what I do here at To The Point Nutrition. I also have some things under my sleeve planned for just the next couple days that I can't wait to talk to you about. I think you guys are really gonna like it. So I'm gonna talk about that. So hang around to the end because that's when I'll bring it up. And let's see. So questions. Oh yes, and I wanted to talk about the Netflix series a little bit, Tiny Pretty Things. Now, if you are under 18, you probably shouldn't have watched it, right? So I apologize if you haven't seen it, but I still think that there are conversations that we can have just about some of really what went on there. And if you haven't checked it out already, I did post on my blog, dancenutrition.com, a review of my opinions about the Netflix show. And I have to be honest, I surprised even myself with what my review really entailed, to be honest, from just the start of me watching it to the end of me watching it and actually falling in love with the show. So let's get started with some of the questions that I collected a couple days ago. The first one being, how is dance nutrition different than regular nutrition? A couple dancers asked this. And I think it's a really great question because it's like, you know, why did I decide as a dietitian to want to work with this niche? And it's because there are differences between nutrition for dancers and nutrition for the general population. And where it really falls down into is that we have these two major mindsets around food, okay, that I like to educate dancers on. And one side of the spectrum is performance nutrition. Dancers are artistic athletes, okay? So their needs, or your needs, our needs, are more than that of the general population. There are specific vitamins and minerals that we want to focus on. There are the macronutrients, carbs, protein, and fat, and learning how to better choose foods that are going to support sustainable energy, muscle recovery, etc. And also learning how to configure your meals and snacks in a way that are supporting your performance goals, whether on stage or in class, right? Obviously, on stage is a little bit rough right now. If you're doing virtual performances, that's great. If you are able to perform, I am jealous. But aside from that, it's balancing this one side of the spectrum of performance nutrition with then this whole other mindset of how can we do this, but do so in a way that doesn't support restrictive eating, because dance is an aesthetic type of sport, right? And it is very much centered around visual art, right? And body ideals, even if those ideals are most often impractical, right? We can't deny them. We can't deny that they're there, right? So it's a matter of learning how to fuel for performance in a way that doesn't lead us to restrictive eating behaviors. And what is this overarching mindset? Well, it's intuitive eating. It's called intuitive eating. And, intuitive eating is a non-diet approach to fueling our body. It's learning how to choose foods for the purpose of our personal preferences of to achieve satisfaction after eating. It's also a purpose to fuel our body in a way that honors our intuitive feelings of hunger and fullness. So, with 2020 coming to a close and with January approaching in just a couple days, this is prime time for two things. It's audition season for your summer intensives, which are coming right around the corner. And it's also prime time for diet poaching, right? I give it maybe just a couple hours before your inbox is going to start flooding with a lot of diet culture messages, New Year's resolutions, what you should be doing to, change your body or achieve a weight of XYZ, etc. So it's super important for us to have this conversation because as dancers, again, we stand in this middle part of okay, well, I need to learn how to choose foods that are fueling my performance, but I also need to be able to do this without becoming obsessive over it or thinking that I should not be eating certain foods because I'm a dancer. This is where Tiny Pretty Things comes into play. When I first started watching the series, the first episode of it, I was getting really nervous because of the scenes and the instances that were being portrayed of disordered eating and eating disorders. Whether that was calorie counting or suggesting calorie counting or, eating in secrecy, obsessively monitoring what you were eating or writing it down. These were instances that were making me really nervous because as a young dancer, or even not a young dancer, just a dancer who is in their own way struggling with body image or fueling for performance, could see this and say, okay, well, they're dancers, they're really good dancers, and they're doing these behaviors. Maybe I should be doing these behaviors. That's the second guessing that I was starting to get nervous about. But then as I continued to watch the series, I realized that even though these instances were being depicted, they were paralleling other instances that were basically showing that the dancers were not getting very far with what they were doing with these behaviors. And it was actually destructive, right? That's the overarching theme, that it was destructive. And that's what I want dancers to realize that, sorry, my parents' dog just came in. He's probably gonna start barking, but whatever. That's what I want dancers to realize is that did we see these behaviors that could be triggering? Yes. Right? And that's what made me nervous. But at the same time, as you continue to watch, we saw that those behaviors didn't get those dancers very far in their performance. And even with this unrealistic weight goal that they maybe had. Okay, so that's kind of where Tiny Pretty Things comes into play and how I wanted to approach it today. But then just getting back to, again, how does dance nutrition differ from general nutrition? So it is learning how to balance fueling for performance as an athlete, because our needs are higher and perhaps even can be thought of as being more extreme than the general population. And then also learning how to do that in a non-restrictive way, despite being drenched in these just unrealistic body ideals that we have to deal with. So let me just take a look here and see there were a couple other questions. Okay, and moving more into this idea of how does dance nutrition differ. See, intuitive eating, learning how to eat for the purpose of honoring your hunger and fullness and just being able to eat in a way that supports energy balance, which is a naturally intuitive process and not having to control it, right? This can be very difficult for dancers from a practical standpoint, because as dancers, not only are we really busy throughout our day, not only are we balancing our classes and rehearsals, and for you students, even academic classes, you're busy, but also because exercise in of itself naturally blunts hunger. So you're literally partaking in something that is making it very difficult for you to actually listen to your intuitive feelings of hunger. So essentially, this is that balance. This is what makes dance nutrition so important and different than maybe for the general population. It's because we need to now balance, okay, well, how can we be proactive about fueling for a busy day? And this is a couple of you asked this question on that post, how can I get in enough food on a busy day without going to class and feeling bloated or weighted down, but knowing that I still need to get the food in because I know that my needs are higher and I do want to fuel for my performance. So most often, from a day-to-day standpoint, especially if you're like in an intensive, for now, some of you might be in winter intensives right now or summer intensives, you have to realize that, this idea of intuitive eating actually might not be what we're going to be focusing on, right, while you're in your prime season. But it is something that I want to teach you because I want you to be able to tap into it times like now when we're on vacation or holidays or weekends, etc. And just really you shouldn't feel like you can't trust yourself around food, because this is what happened to me over a decade ago when I was dancing. For those of you who follow me know that I love sweets. I have a big sweet tooth. And when I was dancing, I thought this was bad. I thought this was something that I should be like, why? I'm a dancer. I shouldn't have a sweet tooth. This isn't lining up. This is not good. So I have to try and control it. I have to stop myself from eating cookies or a cupcake, etc., because I know that if I were to eat these foods, I am just going to go nuts because I couldn't trust myself around food. And then eventually what would happen is I would have these foods, right? Because we can't avoid completely unless you live in a bubble, which can then be thought of a true eating disorder if you're really isolating yourself from these experiences because you truly feel that you can't trust yourself around them. Eventually when you are seeing these foods, maybe it's a holiday dinner, maybe it's just a weekend dinner, maybe it's just going out with friends, etc., and then just eating past fullness, going overboard, feeling out of control around these foods, and you just end up on this cycle of where I should not be doing this, I should be restricting myself, to I can't control myself, and you know what, starting tomorrow, I'm never going to eat this again, so let me just pack it all in now, right? And that's the cycle that I talk about all the time, and like all of my posts here on Instagram, that's the cycle that I really am trying to educate you dancers on avoiding, because this is what makes food not fun. This is what makes something that, like, my love for sweets, I eventually realized that I was trying to, like, band-aid or avoid a love for sweets, where in fact if I learned actually to embrace it, then when I was having the cookies, I can actually enjoy the cookies instead of thinking, oh, I shouldn't be eating this, I shouldn't be eating this, I shouldn't be eating this, right? Enjoying the experience makes it more of a satisfying experience. And then, I call satisfaction the fourth macronutrient for a reason, because if we are satisfying ourselves with our food choices, then we are going to be less likely to overdo it. And then, that old phrase, that old like diet culture phrase, everything in moderation, actually somewhat makes a little bit of sense. It's not my favorite phrase to say because it's very difficult to explain, but the idea being, okay, well, instead of that moderation coming from these external sources saying, okay, only have this much, or only have this certain amount of calories, or only have a portion that's XYZ big, whatever, it's my body that's telling me, okay, I'm satisfied, I don't need any more because I'm no longer hungry, I'm satisfied, and guess what? I know that I can have this tomorrow. It's not that mindset of like, I shouldn't be eating it, I'm never gonna have it again, etc. That's what gets us out of this restrict and binge cycle. Yes, embrace it. Okay, so let me just see here. Those were the major things that I kind of wanted to talk about beforehand. And I see some of you did send in some questions on here. Okay, so once someone asked, I have a friend who has a very restrictive eating style. Is there any ways I can help her without offending her? This is definitely a touchy subject, right? Especially for dancers, when it comes to eating and body weight, etc., because you don't necessarily know where everybody is in their relationship with food and whether or not they are in a very bad place and a place where they're either extremely confused about what they should be eating throughout the day, or perhaps, severely restricting, etc., and maybe not feeling comfortable about talking to a friend about it. And I will say you have to tread very lightly with situations like this and recommend professionals. Professional dietitian like myself, a dietitian who's familiar with dancers is very helpful, just like I was saying before, you know, there is a difference between nutrition for dancers versus nutrition for the general population, and someone who understands the environment that dancers are dealing with in the industry. And a mental health professional, super important as well for just learning how to build that balanced lifestyle with food. So the biggest suggestion I can give you is giving her professional resources. The National Eating Disorder Association has a very helpful website. Just Google NEDA. It'll take you right to the website. And that is a great starting point for her. Honestly, and this is something that I've told a lot of dancers, if you want to introduce them to the idea of not eating restrictively and being a dancer, just subtly send them to my account. Just be like, hey, look at this post, it's so funny, ha ha ha, like, and then they'll start following me, and then maybe start realizing that they don't have, that eating in the way that they're eating right now is not necessarily helping their career. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I'm coming back to dance after battling years of an eating disorder. I'm finally ready to commit to recovery, but I fear that I'll get rejected because of my body. Do you have any thoughts? So this is something that is very important to talk about, body image in dance. But it's more than just body image. It's more than just us on a personal note coming to acceptance for our body, because like you might be realizing now that you are maybe in recovery for an eating disorder, maybe you have worked very hard to and done a great job developing a better relationship with your body, but then you are coming back into a world where, again, we can't deny that body ideals are very much there. I mean, we saw just a couple months ago, Catherine Morgan came out with her experience at Miami City Ballet, right? There is no denying that these stereotypes are out there. And just side note, this is what changed my outlook on the Netflix series Tiny Pretty Things, because like I said, when I first started watching it, I was like, oh no, this is so cliche. This is going to, you know, these stereotypes are so cliche, like we're trying to change the industry. This is going to trigger a lot of dancers, etc. To then being like, like as I started watching it, you know, they are dramatizing major stereotypes in the dance world, but the stereotypes are there. I mean, we know what just happened at Ballet West abroad, not in the US, right? These stereotypes that they portray in the show are very much apparent in the dance world. And if this is the type of series it takes to get them known and in the mainstream to hopefully try and make change, then maybe it's not such a bad thing. That was like my major shift with the series and why I went from cringing to actually kind of loving it. So what was the initial question? Oh yeah, so fear of getting rejected. Okay, so this is where, you know, is our industry drenched in body ideals? Yes, but should that be a reason to avoid something you love? No. Do I want you striving for unrealistic body goals? Absolutely not, because that is not going to lead you to a successful career, okay? That being said, are there more opportunities in the dance world for varying body types these days? Yes, there are. There are companies out there, there are schools out there that are putting body weight and body shape and body size away on the back burner, okay? Not even on the back burner, like away. Again, are there schools that are still going by unrealistic standards, unrealistic weight standards? Yeah, there are, unfortunately. And we will continue to fight this and have that, you know, down the road in an ideal world not be a thing. But I also don't want to have impractical thinking here, right? But there are opportunities out there. No dancer should ever feel that they can't pursue this passion because they don't have this quote unquote ideal body. I know for myself, and I was talking to a very good dance friend last night, that we feel our history in dance and in classical ballet particularly has done so much for everything we do today. Obviously, you know what it's done for me. It's helped me create this whole platform and just what I do as a dietitian for dancers. But let's talk about the other opportunities in this field. Dance journalism, physical therapy, dance science in general. My friend is a mental health therapist who works with a lot of dancers and aesthetic type athletes. So my point being is that your background in dance, whether it leads you to a performance-based career or another type of career, I don't know. I can't tell you, but you shouldn't turn away from something that you love because you think you don't have the body for it. There are other opportunities out there, and there are performing opportunities out there as well, okay? Again, that's still evolving. It's always going to evolve in this industry, but there's also, like I said before, many branches of this industry that need dancers and that need educated dancers. I believe so in one of the, my series that I started in the spring, Conversations with the Pros, and I spoke with Ali DeBona from Ballet West, and who's incredible. And if you haven't watched that, I suggest you watch that episode. It was so eye-opening. But I believe she said it best when she explained that, her educating of young dancers now is not necessarily for the purpose of educating every prima ballerina that's going to go off to the world. It's a matter of educating the dance journalists, the dance dietitians, the physical therapists. I mean, like I said, there are so many different roads in our industry these days that can allow you to take your education as a dancer to new lengths. Okay, so just something to think about with that. Hold on. Oh my God, there's so many questions. I'm getting overwhelmed. I need to pick one. I'm finally comfortable. Okay, so this, sorry, hold on. So how can I begin eating more while maintaining my desired physique? So this really boils down again into, well, what is that desired physique? Is it making you sacrifice enjoyment around food? Is this weight that you are trying to, let's just, for example, okay, let's just say like the 5 pounds, these 5 pounds that you're so scared of regaining, all right? Are those 5 pounds really worth you constantly thinking about food, constantly having to think about calorie counting, constantly have to worry about, should I be eating this, shouldn't I be eating this, making you feel that you can't go out to dinner or order in, depending on where you're at with your quarantine, making you feel like you can't enjoy a meal that wasn't created by you because you don't know the exact ingredients and the calories in the meal, right? Guess what? It's not worth it. It's not worth making those sacrifices because that is impacting your ability as a dancer. That's impacting your energy levels if you're not eating enough to support your body's weight. So for girls or females, if you're not getting a menstrual cycle, then that's a sign that you need to eat more throughout your day. So is it worth sacrificing in order to maintain this unrealistic physique? Is it worth sacrificing your long-term bone health? No. And I should just say that male dancers as well have the same risk with hormonal imbalances. It's just harder for us to pinpoint. But it's the same risk. You will be sitting out with stress fractures, which again, just makes things not fun. It turns dance, what it did for me over a decade ago was it made dance not fun. And I was burnt out. I had to take time off just to regain my love for it. And I spoke about this in my blog post from last week that you should go check out on dancenutrition.com because you might find it very relatable. What is your all-time favorite snack and meal for lots of energy? So I feel like my clients know this, the dancers that work with me know this, but I love nuts. And I know that this is, for those of you that have a nut allergy, this is not necessarily helping you, but I love nut butters. I love peanut butter, I love almond butter. So honestly, I love making like a nut butter sandwich with Ezekiel bread or Dave's Killer bread. That's something that we have here in the States that I just find delicious. It's higher in fiber, it's more minimally processed, and yeah, they have a cinnamon raisin flavor that I just happen to love right now. So I like doing that with almond butter. That's currently my favorite snack. Let's see. So which schools are becoming more inclusive? I can definitely name a few. JKO, ABT school, the Royal Ballet, their school as well, definitely becoming more inclusive. Let's see. How do the fueling needs of a competition dancer differ from those of a ballet dancer? Are there major differences? Not necessarily. You know, all dancers are going to benefit from two main things when it comes to nutrition and fueling for performance. They're going to benefit from balance, so balance of the the 4 macronutrients, right? Protein, carbohydrates, fat, and of course satisfaction, which I spoke about earlier. They're going to benefit from balance and making sure that every time they eat a meal or a snack, you are getting in one of these all of these macronutrients together. The reason why I say that is because something with diet culture, as we head into diet culture poaching season, right, with January, they like to single out macronutrients and say, okay, well, we need to eat high protein, we need to eat low fat, or we need to eat low carb or high fat. And they kind of just try to manipulate these macronutrients all the time and control what you're putting on your plate. And I need you to just like scrap all of that and realize that all of these macronutrients have very important roles in a dancer's body. And therefore, when we are making our meals and snacks, we want to incorporate all of them throughout our day. Okay, so that was like the one thing that's really important. And if you remember, I said there are two things. The other thing is consistency throughout your day. So not going these extremely long hours without eating. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about why something like intuitive eating could be a little bit difficult. I should back up. It's not that intuitive eating is difficult for dancers, because it's something that I teach all the dancers that work with me how to eat intuitively. But it's knowing that in addition to that, knowing how to proactively fuel the body, because you very well might not feel hungry throughout your day if you are partaking in very intense classes and rehearsals, and if you're just busy. So, you know, it can be very easy for a dancer to say, okay, I'm going to eat intuitively and I don't feel hungry. I don't feel hungry between like the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Okay, well, that's not good. That is not supporting your energy levels for a good performance, and it's not even good for your health. So basically what we want to make sure is that we are including a meal and or a snack pretty much anywhere from like 2 to 4 hours. I give a big range on these types of general lives because it really depends on your personal schedule and your personal needs as a dancer. So that, I know it's a large range that I'm giving you, 2 to 4 hours, but just think, you know, you really don't want to go these extended long periods of time without giving your body some type of fuel. And when you are giving your body that fuel, you want it to be balanced with the quote unquote, I'm doing quotes for macronutrients because there's really only 3 macronutrients, but I'm adding the 4th one, satisfaction. So that's carbohydrates, protein, fat, and satisfaction, choosing foods that you love and that you like eating, and that you're eating not because you just feel like, okay, I should be eating this. I should be eating this salad with grilled chicken because it's what dancers should be eating. No, you know, dress your salad up with a delicious dressing, add pumpkin seeds, add chopped nuts, add goat cheese. These are all things that I like in my salad. Dried cranberries. Make it good, make it delicious, because then it's going to be satisfying for you and you will be setting yourself up to eat to satisfaction and eat to fullness. Finding foods that give me energy. Do you have any tips? So now we spoke about those macronutrients, right? Carbs, protein, and fat, and making sure that we're incorporating them in a way together to find balance. Carbohydrates are really good for energy, okay? There are carbohydrates we can think of as acting like a simple carb or acting like a complex carb. I break a lot of this down in some of the education materials that I have, again, on my website, dancenutrition.com, so definitely check that out. I'm not going to spend too much time on it here, but focusing on carbohydrates that are going to provide more of a sustained level of energy throughout your day. These are going to help promote just sustained energy, avoiding energy crashes. Now, that being said, something like simple carbohydrates that are lower in fiber, perhaps something like fruit, melon, etc., these are great for when we need that energy pick-me-up. So for example, maybe before the end of a performance, or even just to get you through the last 15 to 30 minutes of class, having something to pick up your energy levels in that sense. How do I get out of the all or nothing mentality? This is such a good question, because I would say this was my biggest struggle as a dancer, just being type A and being a perfectionist. And I think so many dancers are type A. So how do we get out of the all or nothing mindset? Well, before I break it down here, I do have some really helpful resources. Again, I don't mean to keep plugging my site, but dancenutrition.com, if you type in all or nothing, you will see a very helpful article and even a YouTube video that I talk about it. But finding the gray area between this black or white thinking, that is honestly what I want you to realize, a journey. I say this a lot too. It's not necessarily a destination. We're not necessarily ever solving our black or white thinking, our all or nothing thinking, or our type A perfectionism. It's learning how to manage it throughout the day and get comfortable with the uncomfortable, or with that gray area, and challenging yourself. For something that comes to mind, for example, is obsessively measuring portions. Okay, so someone with an all or nothing mindset might feel that if a recommended serving size for, I don't know, it's just any type of food is a half a cup, that they have to take a measuring scoop of a half a cup and measure it out. Well, I want you to challenge yourself. I want you to challenge, and it's going to make you feel really uncomfortable, but instead of taking that measuring scoop, I actually want you to take your hand or a unmeasured bowl, okay, and just scoop it out. And it's again going to make you feel very uncomfortable. It's going to maybe even give you a pit in your stomach. But this is the work. This is the work to try and find more comfort with the uncomfortable of that gray area with all or nothing thinking. After years of restricting, this is a question, by the way. After years of restricting, I realized I have no hunger cues. This is such a good question, because it is so true. For anyone who does, whether it's months or years, maybe even weeks, of restricting food intake, you very well can lose your hunger cues. And this is also why dancers who are coming out of an eating disorder or coming out of severely disordered eating, we need to focus on, again, proactively fueling the body, because we technically can't trust your hunger cues right now. So we need to, even though we can't trust them now, in order to get to a place that we trust them, we have to start bringing them on a little bit more. And that's essentially, again, formulating a plan to proactively fuel our body. Okay, so I covered a lot of questions. I'm hoping that most of this was very helpful for you guys. I did promise to let you in on something fun that I am working on for just a couple days from now for 2021. And back in August, I started a free body confidence challenge for dancers. And it was a huge success. It is a huge success. I know a lot of dancers love really taking part in this challenge. It's completely free, it's email based. So I decided, you know what, let me do another one, and we can all do it together. And it's for just entering the new year and taking a machete to those diet culture messages that are going to be flooding. Okay, I'm back. That was a poor connection there. I have coming out in a couple days. You will be able to sign up for it, and we are going to walk through this together. It's a 5-day challenge for just detoxing, but it's not the detox you think. It's not a juice cleanse. It's detoxing from diet culture. And it's just learning how to, again, not kickstart this unsustainable diet plan, but rather kickstart a road towards finding that balance of intuitive eating and fueling for your performance. So I think you guys will really like that challenge. Let's see. So I did the questions, spoke about the challenge that I will be sharing and posting about soon. A couple more questions I see here. A couple of you are asking, how do you get your period back? This is something that is important to address. in short, you probably have to start eating more. I know that's much easier said than done. I honestly, if you aren't getting a period for an extended period of time, then I really do suggest that you reach out to me, a professional, and because we don't want to risk your long-term bone health. So I have a very good article about relative energy deficiency in sport. This can affect both male and female dancers. And it is important to just go check that out, because you will learn about the signs that you might be putting yourself at risk for this syndrome, and and learn about how to solve it, I guess is the best way to say. Okay, so guys, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Let's see, a couple other things for 2021. I am bringing back Conversations with the Pros. I know you guys loved that, which I did last spring. You can check out all of those episodes on my IGTV. So go enjoy them. And I'm bringing it back for the spring. I've got a really exciting lineup to start with. And another thing, so if you guys liked this Q&A and if you found it helpful, I'm thinking about continuing with this in 2021, and perhaps maybe doing it monthly, or just every so often, hosting just you and me. You ask me some questions, we can recap about what we spoke about in one of the episodes of Conversations with the Pros, and I could answer your questions. So I'd like to continue these live Q&As. I'd like to get back the conversations, and that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for following along. Thank you for tuning into today's live. I know that I didn't really announce the time until last minute, because I was just trying to coordinate childcare, honestly. So I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.